What is up, guys? Welcome back to another quick episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Today, June 10th, Monday, we're going to be going over the 2024 New York Jets fantasy football projections. I'm starting with the AFC East. I've already done Buffalo, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. Now we're on to the Jets today here. We'll do some housekeeping and get that done out of the way before we get into the meat of the video. But I just want to share with you guys, I got a membership going on the fantasyfellowship.com right now. Members are going to get access to the Discord link. You got the projections cheat sheet there for download. You can click into the projections. I do have some advanced data studies as well. Dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, my best ball exposure rankings, and some ADP changes and things like that. So lots of stuff I'm going to be posting there all summer. It's just $10 a month if you guys want to do a full season pass. I believe that's $50. But either way, we're going to get right into the video here. And what I'm doing now is I'm sharing with you guys my initial projections. These are just my preliminary numbers that we're going to kind of use as a starting point. And throughout the summer, and we get closer into OTAs, we'll continue to tweak those and hopefully get them tighter and tighter and tighter and more correct as we go along. So we'll kind of reference the Jets and kind of look and see where I have players ranked. But let's get right into it. And what I like to start with is I like to look at the last season or two for each team. So we're going to start with the 2023 review. Obviously, things went pretty poorly last year for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers down after 4 snaps. They went with Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, and Tim Boyle. Abysmal QB play all across the board here. These guys threw for only 11 touchdowns on the year, 15 interceptions. They didn't really add much on the ground either. Zach Wilson did a little bbit, but no rushing touchdowns from the group here. So pretty poor QB play. You can see under 60% completion percentage, about 3,400 passing yards, under 6.0 yards per attempt, which is pretty bad. There's the 11-5 TD to int ratio. And then they also ran the ball poorly. 4.2 yards per carry is fine, especially when you look at what Breece was able to do. Breece was at 4.46, but you had Dalvin Cook in there getting 3.19, Israel Abanikanda. They've done a good job replacing that RB2 production, so I expect Breece to take another step forward after an ACL tear, and then more competition at RB2. So just everything was this was as bad as it could have gone last year for the Jets. But you're getting back Aaron Rodgers, you're getting back some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, and we should be reloaded here for what we were expecting last year. So I can't really review 2023 all that much here. I just think we're going to see these numbers grow. The one thing that I do appreciate, though, is I'm able to see what a full season of Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett looks like. They threw the ball a ton for having garbage quarterbacks, and some of that was the product of the game scripts, but they threw the ball a ton, 600 passing attempts. I think you're looking at Aaron Rodgers being a volume thrower for this season. So that's kind of my review. You had some good numbers from Breece, almost 1,000 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. He was amazing as a dump-off receiver. He did a lot with the ball in his hands. And then Garrett Wilson, man, I know he had a rough up-and-down year, only 3 touchdowns, but 95 catches, over 1,000 yards. Like, he's really good, and I think we're going to see that with Aaron Rodgers. And then the sleeper here, it's going to be Tyler Conklin. He had 87 targets, which was third best on the team behind Wilson and Breece, but 61 catches, 620 yards, no touchdowns. So there's room for him to be fantasy relevant this year. But that's the 2023 side of things. Let's get into the projections for 2024, starting with the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor are here. Now, it's been a while since we've seen Aaron Rodgers. We know he's going to, throw for about 66 to 68% of his completion percentage. So I kind of start with the passing attempts and kind of work my way back. I like to plug in the completion percentage and get the attempts and the completions in there, because that allows me to set up the receiving numbers. So I got Rodgers at about 66%, 565 passing attempts, about 4,100 passing yards. He's up there at 7.27 yards per attempt, which all feels pretty good. Touchdowns are 27. I have him at 10 interceptions. He could probably come in lower than that, but I think he's probably looking at that 25 to 30 touchdown window. Again, if you're throwing the ball 600 times, he's probably going to be in that 4 to 5% touchdown percentage. So that's kind of where the numbers come out there. And we know he's not going to add a lot on the ground. I have him at 25 rushing attempts, 95 yards, and a touchdown, 2 fumbles. That Achilles injury is not going to make him super nimble in the back, running the ball and things like that. But I think he's still going to be able to scoot if he needs to, when he needs to. So we're banking on Rodgers playing 15, 16 games here. That's how I kind of like to project my starting quarterbacks. It keeps their numbers well balanced. Otherwise, if I'm projecting every starter for 17 games, I'm just kind of getting these insane projections. So I'm giving Tyrod Taylor about a game and a half, maybe 2 games of starting numbers here, just 40 attempts, 265 passing yards, a touchdown, a pick, and a few rushing attempts. But overall, Yeah, we're going to see a huge upgrade at quarterback play. And really, these guys the Jets have been in a quarterback purgatory going all the way back to Todd Bowles. We're talking 2016, 2017, where they just they've had one season over 60% completion percentage. So we're looking at the best Jets offense in a very, very long time. Aaron Rodgers is going to bring a lot of stability to this offense. So for fantasy football, where am I drafting Aaron? I'm coming on to him as a solid QB2 option. I don't think he has QB, top 10, top 12 QB in his range of outcomes just because of the lack of the rushing volume there, but he's going to be up there with the best passers. I do have him at QB20. He's in that Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Caleb Williams range for me, where it's like, yeah, I want a veteran passer that I know is going to throw for 250 yards and maybe a touchdown or two per game, get me 15 to 18 points. That feels pretty comfortable. So for super flex leagues, I'm in on Rodgers. For one QB leagues, he's probably going to be, like a QB2 option that you maybe flex in or you put out there in good situations, good matchups, things like that. He might even be a waiver wire option in your traditional 10 or 12 team redraft league. So I like Rodgers in Superflex. I like him in best ball as QB2, and he's going to continue to throw. And I think he's got a lot to prove this year. I think there's going to be a side of him that he wants to prove that he can still play. And they did surround him with some weapons. So that's the quarterback room. Let's talk about the running backs. Now, I mentioned earlier that they've kind of revamped this room. They still got Breece Hall, who's a full year removed from his ACL injury, and he looked so good last year that, he's going to kind of bend the rules and make us rethink on players coming back from ACL injuries because he just looks so good. He helped us win league championships last year, so I think he's in the same position to do so this year. Right now, he costs a mid to late first round pick in best balls and redraft leagues, and I think it's worth it. Rodgers has always been good at throwing to the running back. This Nathaniel Hackett system does like to target running backs, and I think we're going to continue to see that boost his PPR floors. But we're looking at a lead back scenario for Breece Hall. I have him at 275 rushing attempts, almost 1,300 yards, 4.71 yards per carry. That's up maybe 0.3 yards per carry from last year. 8 rushing touchdowns, a fumble. And then the receiving numbers, I think, are coming down a little bit just because the quality of quarterbacks that he played with last year, Wilson, Simeon, and Boyle, these guys can't really read through their reads very well, and they were dumping off the ball at a very insanely high clip. I think those numbers are going to come down just a little bit, but he's still going to be very, very effective as a receiving weapon. So we're kind of talking like an Aaron Jones prime season where he caught 50, 60 passes in a year. I think that's kind of what Breece Hall is in store for. So I have him at 66 catches, 80 targets, almost 500 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. So double-digit TDs for Breece. He's going to flirt with, 1,800 all-purpose yards, maybe even more. Who knows if the offensive line can kind of help him and keep things moving. But I love Breece. He's well worth the first-round draft capital that you need to spend it on. He's in that tier of Bijan or Breece as RB2 or 3, and I think it's a tough call. But I'm going to lean Bijan there, but I still think Breece can be your first-round anchor pick. And then the added depth behind him, Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, Isaiah Davis, South Dakota State. There's Abani Conda back and Nick Bodden, the fullback. It sounds like the Jets camp is very impressed with Braylon Allen, so he's the lead candidate right now for RB2 backup duties. And when they got, especially early in the year when they had Dalvin Cook, when they got near the red zone, they were trying to run with him in the red zone. I think he was their red zone, rushing attempt leader when they got down there in first and goal situation. So I think it's an upgrade, younger, faster, stronger, I think at this point than Dalvin Cook. And if anything happens to Breece Hall, we're all going to be talking about Braylon Allen on the waiver wire or whatever. So he's purely the handcuff play at this point. He's not going to take away a ton of touches from Breece Hall, but he's going to be there for breather carries, probably first and second down duty, probably not too many passing attempts in his rookie season, though. So I like Braylon Allen. He's a handcuff, though, in best ball and redraft leagues. And then we'll see between Isaiah Davis and Abani Conda for RB3. We're not drafting these guys. You shouldn't be clicking them in best balls right now. It's purely Braylon Allen for me. But we'll watch that battle in training camp. I do want to see how Allen looks compared to Davis and Abani Conda. But that's pretty much it. I think there's room for this Jets offense to really, really run the ball strongly. They've upgraded the offensive line with some free agents, a couple draft picks. It's looking really good. So run game improved, among Aaron Rodgers being improved as well. So let's go ahead and move on to the wide receivers. The wide receiver room was really bad last year. We're talking Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Xavier Gibson, Jason Brownlee, Randall Cobb, Malik Taylor, and Mecole Hardman. This year, they're rolling with Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Malachi Corley, the fun yard after catch receiver out of Western Kentucky, and then Allen Lazard, Gibson, and Jason Brownlee are all still there. But Mike Williams was a big ad. I know he's coming off of an ACL tear. And Garrett Wilson, he's still healthy and he's going to be one of the top receivers in the league. And then we'll see what Malachi Corley can do as a rookie wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 in this offense. I think if you're drafting Garrett Wilson, he's a late first-round pick. He's going to be a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football this year, as long as Rodgers and as long as Wilson are both healthy. He's set up for a career year. I have him at 118 receptions, 175 targets, 1,400 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And just keep in mind, man, like last year, 95 receptions on 168 targets, a little over 1,000 yards and 3 TDs. The numbers were there for him last year to be a wide receiver 1, but we're talking 59% completion percentage. He just didn't have the quarterbacks needed to do the job. So, just a slight projection of more targets from Aaron Rodgers, because we've seen him with Devontae Adams and some of his number 1 wide receivers in the past. He likes to continue to feed his guy. So there's going to be several games where Garrett Wilson's getting 9, 10, 11 catches in a game. And I do think it's pretty clear that he's going to lead the team in receiving touchdowns this year. So Garrett Wilson, a smash pick. He's a wide receiver 1. Best ball drafts right now, he's being picked, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in that range. Maybe in a redraft league, you can get him at the end of the first, early second, something like that. But I absolutely love Garrett Wilson. And I'm not too afraid to draft him with Aaron Rodgers, just because the numbers were as bad as they were last year with the quarterback play. They did bring in Tyrod Taylor, so there's a little bit of stability there. But I want to lean into Garrett Wilson because he's really talented. And hey, shout out to Rave here. Hope you're doing well, man. Long time no see, man. It's early June. We're getting ramped up here. This is the 4th video in my projection series. We're covering the AFC East. I've already got the other ones up there. Tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to be able to start the NFC East, but tomorrow or Wednesday, we'll start rolling with the NFC East projection. So it's all Garrett Wilson. I think Mike Williams is interesting. He's more of a best ball target where he's going to catch a few touchdowns. But he's also coming off a serious knee injury. He's getting up there in age. He's going to be, the definition of a boom bust wide receiver where he does his 4 for 80 and 2 touchdowns kind of game. The next game he's going to go 3 for 22 or something like that. And I'm not 100% sure he's going to be, ready for week 1 to be a full, 90 plus snap percentage type guy. So I think it's going to be kind of a slow ramp for him. The Jets are thinking Super Bowl. They want to get Mike Williams towards December here. So expect a small ramp up period for him as he's getting strength and confidence in that knee. I do think that maybe by October, he's probably going to be entering your wide receiver 3 flex opportunities. Right now, I think he's like an 8th or 9th round pick in best ball leagues. He's not a guy I click a ton just because I think the volume's going to go to Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Those are the 2 guys I want on the Jets from an offensive weapon standpoint. But I do think it's an upgrade to the Jets offense just to have Mike Williams, a guy that can stretch the field, a guy that can do jump balls, be a red zone threat. I think he's a good player. Don't really love him for fantasy. The guys that I'm interested here, though, are Malachi Corley. Who knows, man? He was a really good player at Western Kentucky, obviously small school competition, but he dominated in the yards after catch department there. So you get him the ball quickly, let him do his thing in space. I think he could be a nice little outlet when, if Wilson's covered up and Breece Hall's not available in the flat. You could look for Malachi Corley wherever in the middle of the field. So he's not a guy that I'm very interested, though, in redraft leagues. Rodgers and rookie players don't really jive all that well. But I think for best ball, he's fine as your wide receiver 7 or 8 or something like that. And then Lazard, Gibson, Brownlee, I'm kind of giving the benefit of the doubt just because Rodgers and Lazard are back together. But I think there's a legit possibility that I don't know if it's Gibson. I think he is the actual number 4 wide receiver. I might be tweaking those numbers over the coming weeks here. So we'll watch for the wide receiver 4 battle there behind Corley, or maybe even Gibson is the wide receiver 3. We'll find out. And then they did like Brownlee quite a bit in the preseason last year. He did get a little bit of time with the ones last year as well. But it's all Garrett Wilson. You can take a chance on Mike Williams, but I think it's going to be kind of, boom bust and kind of frustrating to put him out there in redraft leagues. So there's your receiver group. It's improved. Not that much improved. You got a gimpy Mike Williams and a young rookie in Malachi Corley here. We'll see what Rodgers can do with it. And then we'll move and finish up with the tight ends here. Tyler Conklin's back. I was kind of nervous that they were going to draft Brock. I was thinking they were going to draft Brock Bowers or add another strong, early capital draft with a tight end. But they run it back with Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, and Kenny Yeboah. Again, we mentioned Tyler Conklin's numbers at the beginning of the show. 61 catches, 87 targets, 621 yards last year. No touchdowns. If he caught some touchdowns, he'd be on everyone's radar probably as a fringe tight end 1. So I've been clicking him a lot as my tight end 2 or 3 in best ball leagues right now. I have him actually at 55 receptions, 80 targets, 580 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So kind of what he did last year, just with some touchdowns added. I actually moved his numbers down a little bit just because I think Rodgers is going to be looking for his outside receivers a little bit more than the other guys did last year. So he's like a really safe tight end 2 in best ball. He's going to be one of those guys that's probably on the waiver wire week 1 or 2, and if he catches a touchdown or 2 in those first couple games, then we'll start talking about him. But I do see him as like the number 3 or 4 target in this offense, and he's got potential to be a fantasy starting tight end if things get going, because Rodgers has had some really nice tight ends throughout his career. Most recently, Robert Tonyan had a nice big touchdown season, so maybe that can happen for Conklin. And then Ruckert, I think he's in his 2nd year now. He's a guy that's on the up and up. If anything happens to Conklin, we'll look there. And then Yeboah, just another young player here. But those guys, to me, are clearly behind Conklin. He's an established veteran blocking and pretty decent receiving tight end. So I like the group, but it's Conklin for me. And that's pretty much it, man. You're going to draft Rodgers as your QB2, whether it's Superflex or a best ball league. Breece Hall is he's your top 3 running back this year. Braylon Allen is the handcuff. Garrett Wilson, upside of a top 5 wide receiver. He actually, now that we kind of got that all the way, let's do the recap and I'll kind of show you guys. We mentioned Rodgers is my QB20. Breece Hall is I believe he's my RB3. So let me double check. I got PPR selected here. Yeah, I got Breece Hall as my RB3. Receivers, I got Garrett Wilson as my wide receiver 4, which is dangerous. That's kind of a ceiling play for him, but I do think he is a version of Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers, again, has proven to pummel his wide receiver 1 with targets. So I like Wilson a lot. I don't know if I'd take him over Amon-Ra St. Brown just because he offers that really safe floor, and he's also got a really high ceiling. So, but Wilson does have top 5 upside at the position. Mike Williams didn't really grade out all that well for me. He's down here at wide receiver 56, just another bench piece for you guys to throw it at flex. And then at tight end, Conklin graded out pretty well for me. He's tight end 16 on the season. So I do think he's going to have some fringe startable weeks and maybe be a streaming option for you guys. But that's it. That's the New York Jets. We just completed the AFC East. Glad to get that one under our belt. You guys can check out those videos. I'm probably going to link them in the squares around here at the end of the video. Otherwise, there should be a playlist link in the comment section for you. So let me know what you guys think. Are you guys drafting Breece, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th overall? Are you interested in Garrett Wilson at the end? Or are you just nervous about Rodgers getting hurt again? Or maybe this is just not going well with Nathaniel Hackett back as an offensive coordinator? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And I just want to thank you so much for your time watching the video. If you guys made it to the end, hit me up on Twitter, X, whatever. You guys can DM me. I can, if you're interested in one of those memberships on the website, I can give you a coupon for a few bucks off for the coming months. So let me know. Thank you guys for your time. We'll see you in a future video. Have a good night. Peace.